Hello and welcome everybody to the call tonight, The Best Parent I Can Be in the Law of Attraction with Parenting. We are just attempting to get this happening on Facebook, but if it doesn't cooperate, it's all good. Thank you to those who have joined us on Zoom. And for those who are trying to get in on Facebook, if this doesn't happen, we will have the recording there for you. Let me just have a look here. Something's happening here. Choose where you want to post. Not sure what's going there. They keep changing all of the rules with this Facebook Live. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening, but doesn't look like it's happening. All good. All good. So let me just share my screen. Thank you. iPhone, if you could just pop your name in so we know who you are there. That would be lovely. iPhone, mum of an almost 3-year-old. Fantastic. Okay, let's share the screen. And okay, if you could confirm that you can see that screen there, Nathan.
Yes, looking good.
Fantastic, thank you. So Nathan will be joining us a little bit later on, and we've got lots to cover this evening. So once again, a huge thank you to those who did jump on Zoom, and for those who were hoping to jump on Facebook. Well, hopefully you're looking to the recording, listening to the recording now. So positive parenting with the law of attraction. So this is all based, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm actually a parenting strategist and author of 6 books. And this is actually my number, I think it's my number 5 out of 6 books. So that's it there. And basically a lot of the information that we'll be sharing tonight will be coming from this book. Okay, so we do have a disclaimer before we get started, an interesting disclaimer. So just to let you know, I'm an author, a trained primary school teacher, an educator, and more importantly, a passionate and dedicated mum. So these are the qualifications and experiences with which I share this information. Now, the most important qualification that I believe I have to share with you, however, is that of actual experience. So you might call it a degree in TTP, which I call tried and tested parenting. And it's basically what we as a family tried, tested and implemented to achieve the awesome results that we did. Now, I also like to call myself a parenting strategist because that is what I love to do. Assist and support parents, and I'm proud to say that I've supported many parents over the years struggling with their families, with their relationships, and with their child's health and happiness. So please do keep in mind that this information is not based on medical advice other than when Nathan speaks, nor is it prescriptive. It is designed to inspire families to find their own answers. So I do encourage you to participate with an open mind and heart and to take on board what feels right for you and your family. I can personally take no responsibility for the outcomes of what you choose to practice. I can only wish you well and hope that you truly hope that it does make a positive difference for you and your family. Now, we also do have a warning. So the warning is, if followed, the information shared in this workshop could lead to the participants having positive parenting experiences. So wouldn't that be awesome? There is also the risk of attracting positive responses, outcomes, and attitudes from your children and having a happy and cooperative family. So that is pretty exciting. So we do say proceed at your own benefit. Okay, we've got somebody waiting to come in there. Okay, awesome. Alrighty then. So our story. So I have 2 sons. My eldest son you will meet in a little while, Nathan. And my second son was actually born on June the 7th in 1993. Now, it was a very, very stressful birth. He actually went into stress, and they had to put a stress monitor on me when I was giving birth. So it was a very, very stressful time indeed, giving birth. It was a very fast but stressful birth. Now, we had challenges from birth. So basically, as soon as he was born, he was quite irritable. He did a lot of screaming. Who can relate to that one? He was unsettled, not sleeping, and basically he was an unhappy child. And we had very, very stressed parents in my husband Andrew and I. So that's Nathan when he was 7.5. So Nathan obviously is 7.5 years older, cuddling his new baby brother who was just minutes prior born. Now, the first year was really, really interesting. There was a lot of screaming, a lot of crying, a lot of, unsettled behavior. He just basically wasn't a happy little baby. There wasn't much, just holding the baby in your arms and watching him and having nice quiet times, because basically if he wasn't sleeping or breastfeeding, he was screaming. So there really wasn't much in between. It was sleeping, feeding, or screaming. They were kind of the three choices that we had, which, as you can imagine, would have been pretty stressful. So by the time it was his first birthday, as you can see there, he doesn't even look very happy. And I know big brother Nathan was doing everything he could to try and make him happy on that day. But basically, as the song goes, it's my party and I'll cry if I want to. That's basically what he did for most of his first birthday. Now, as he came into toddlerhood, he was a cheeky little toddler. He had some beautiful, adorable moments, as all children do, of course, but he also, once again, was very demanding, cried a lot, got into a lot of mischief, right? And he was a pretty, full-on little fella, let me tell you that. Now, he was first diagnosed at age 3.5, would you believe, with childhood depression and ADHD, ODD. And we were quite stressed about this because he had actually gone from childcare centre to childcare centre. He actually attended 5 childcare centres in those couple of years. Basically we had used up every childcare centre in the town that we lived in at the time. There were 5 childcare centres and he participated or went to all 5 of them. Now, in the second last childcare centre that he went to, they were extremely worried about his behaviour, so they brought in a childhood psychologist, and at that point he was assessed and diagnosed at 3.5 with childhood depression, ADHD and ODD. Now, we were very, very distressed when medication was recommended, not only by this practitioner, but by several other practitioners before he even turned 4. So we said to that person, thank you very much for your advice, but no thank you. We went on to seek advice from various other practitioners, including psychologists, psychiatrists, paediatricians, GPs, etc. Basically, all they could do was recommend for us at that stage medication. There were no other answers. And my husband and I were just not prepared to take that path. We didn't even contemplate it for a moment, but we still at that stage didn't really know what to do. Now, for those of you, if we've got any educators listening in or any childcare workers, or if you've had your child in a childcare centre, you want that to be a safe place for your children, right? And unfortunately, wherever our son actually went to participate or to be in a childcare centre, he made it an unsafe place for other children, as you'll see as we progress through. Nathan, if I could just get you to watch the participants, because there are people coming in, if that's okay. Thank you. So as I said, he went to 5 centres over 2 years. Okay, so that was pretty amazing. Now, in the 4th childcare centre that he attended, they actually kept a communication book. And that communication book, books, because there were several of them over the year, they communicated all of his behavior, and sadly most of the behavior that they communicated to us was his negative behavior. We didn't get a lot of Caleb had a great day today, or anything positive. So this is a typical entry in this book, and actually in my book, The Revolting Child, A Blessing in Disguise, I actually go through quite a bit of his journey in childcare, and all of these entries come out of what I've written in this book here. So just to give you some examples, this was in September 97, so he would have been just turned 4. So he knocked a container on the floor, then went to the collage table, knocked over the things the children were making. He went to the block corner, knocked down a building, then returned to the book corner and threw books off the shelf. He then began throwing carpet squares out of the crate. He then slammed the door twice, banged his head against the door. He started messing up the tables the children had tidied. He grabbed a child's reading glasses and bent the arms of the glasses with his hand. He picked up a book and threw it forcibly at another child, hitting him in the face. He was removed to another timeout room where he slammed the door and threw all the toys that had been stacked up against the wall. He then threw a wooden chair at the wall, causing a hole approximately 6 centimetres by 2.5 centimetres. I thought it was quite funny how they actually said the size of the hole. And once removed from that room, he was taken to the yard where he pulled out a plant and threw it on the ground. And that was all before lunch. Okay, so we had many entries like that. We had many entries like that where he obviously had bad days and those around him were finding him challenging as well. Now, this is a picture of him on his first day of school. He absolutely looks happy enough, right? But it was a very stressful year for the whole family. It was a mainstream primary school, pretty typical sort of primary school. Nathan, his older brother, had gone to that primary school. However, they did not cope with him at all. He spent probably more than half of his time in timeout, not really enjoying school. He definitely didn't enjoy school. They didn't enjoy him. So it was a very stressful year indeed. He actually then went to a Steiner school. So there's a little bit of a story around that, which I do tell in the Revolting Child book. A few people had recommended that the Steiner system might be a better system for him. And if you're not familiar with Steiner, it's a beautiful kind of more holistic approach to education. He went there from grade 1 to 5. Unfortunately, in grade 5, the school closed down, which was a real shame because he actually, other than a few incidents over those 4 years, he basically had a reasonably good time at school. I mean, he did break his teacher's nose at one stage, and she was so wonderful about that because it was an interesting thing that happened, and it was a little bit her fault as well, but just the same, her nose ended up broken, which was really traumatic for all of us as well. But he did have some much happier days in the Steiner system. Now then, we actually moved to Queensland. He did a year in a regular primary school in Queensland. We then realised once again that that wasn't suiting him. He wasn't coping, they weren't coping. So we thought, let's pop him into a private school, right? This could be the answer. So we sent him to a very expensive, mind you, private school in Brisbane. And once again, he did not cope very well, and nor did the teachers. He actually had a school record for something which he kind of laughs about now, but he actually had a school record for the most number of red cards. And a red card was the highest card that you could get in the disciplinary kind of regime. I think it went like yellow, green, blue, red, or something like that. Most kids would never ever get a red card in their whole school life, let alone the yellow, green, and blue, but he had the school record for the most. So basically, he was at that school for a year and a term. He was actually asked to leave at the end of first term in year 8. We were basically told, you can take him out voluntarily or we will expel him. So of course we took him out voluntarily. He then went on to a regular high school. It went from bad to worse, and to much worse again. It was really challenging. So as you can see, you know, the difference between his happy little face there at 12, and then this is probably him at about I don't know, 13 and a half, 14. And you can almost see the defiance there, can't you? And it's apt that we actually got that picture of him there as he started to revolt. Now, if you actually look at the word revolt, if you see the 4 letters in the middle backwards actually spell love. So a lot of kids who are revolting, as in, revolting against conforming, they're just seeking love. They're just seeking somebody to understand them and love them. They're just seeking a way for people to say, here I am, this is me, understand me. Yes, I might be a little bit different, but all I really seek here is love. So the revolting years were very, very stressful. And if you thought that the 3 to 5 age group was stressful when he was a little toddler in childcare, 13 to 15 was definitely 10x on that. It was very, very stressful indeed. So we were like, well, what do we do now? Like, help. We really, really needed some help, but we really didn't know what to do, because everything that we had sought prior, all of the information that we had sought prior had only led to people recommending medication, and we just did not want to go down that path. Now, age 13 to 15, as I said, were the toughest years, the toughest time yet, 10x the challenges, as I said. So he went to 2 secondary schools in 2 years. For non-attendance or being suspended for more days than he attended. So he was either not attending school, or what we used to call in our days wagging, or he was suspended for not attending school, which makes absolutely no sense, right? He had a terrible reputation with the teachers. We had the school number, like we knew it off by heart, because when it came in, we knew it was the school, and it came in often. We had many, many calls from the schools. We had to go up to the school often, and it was another, very, very stressful time. He was labelled as a troublemaker at the school. He started mixing in the wrong crowds, which was really, really challenging. And he was getting into inappropriate behaviours and in trouble with the police. And then, it got better. It did get better after that, but that was a really tough time. And I'm just really going over this fairly quickly because we want to get onto the information that will help you. But just to give you a bit of a backstory on our journey and why I'm so passionate about this and why I've actually written 6 books. So after the revolt, the healing began, and there's quite a story to this. I don't really have time to get into this tonight, but you will have the opportunity to be able to read this later. But basically, we started counselling with somebody from the States, from America, who helped us so much. We'll be forever grateful to this person who we call him our angel Frank. So only 10 months after him being in all of that trouble, and can you see the difference in his face from that one where he had his finger up? Like, you can just see the difference in his face, right? And this is actually a photo of him at his big brother's graduation, would you believe? So the healing began. So this is actually a letter that he wrote me only a few months after he was, really, really challenging. And I don't know if you can read that there. I might just read a little bit of it. So he said, "Thank you for your everyday support and interest in all that I do. You inspire me when I'm feeling low and give me strength to pull through anything, because I know you will be there for me. I used to be into some pretty stupid stuff, and I don't know if I could have come out of it better off rather than much worse without your tireless daily love and support. It was a big leap for me to completely change my lifestyle, and I'm so thankful that I had you there by my side." So this is a birthday card he's written to me over 20 years ago, right? No, not 20 years ago, sorry. My 49th. I'm not that old. Over 10 years ago. You may not, where are we? You may not realize how much you just being there for me impacted my life. I can say with all honesty that I could not have done many of the things I've done in the last 10 months without your support. I've met many people who hate their families or their mums, and I just can't imagine it. I know I could never live without my mum. I was thinking yesterday of just how lucky I am to have an amazing mum like you. And then he went on to thank me for some other stuff. So, I mean, to go from where he was to that was just amazing, right? His relationship with Nathan also started mending because, as you can imagine, it was pretty traumatic for Nathan as big brother to have such a crazy kind of younger brother who was, of course, really, really challenging on so many different levels. So it was nice that they started mending that relationship. Now, he actually left school at age 15. He initially went and finished year 10 in TAFE. He did this all of his own accord. He actually got himself into a pre-apprenticeship course and then an apprenticeship as a plumber. He actually did 3 years in plumbing, but unfortunately the business owner's business didn't last, so he left that. And he just wasn't happy where he went after that. So Andrew, my husband, who had been retired as an electrician for over 15 years, decided to go back into business in 2012 to be able to support Caleb and put him through an apprenticeship. And this is now their 8th year of working together. So Caleb's been out of his apprenticeship for 4 years. He's fully qualified and they work as partners in business. And it's just so beautiful to see. So this is my gorgeous family. As you can see, a little bit more grown up now. That's Caleb now, looking a little bit hairier, right? He's now 26, of course, big brother Nathan and my husband Andrew. And that's us on a fantastic family trip that we did last year. Now, what we have actually discovered via this journey is a holistic approach. So Nathan's going to go into a lot of the detail on the health side of things, and then I'm going to come back and cover the parenting and relationship side. So far, it's really just been the backstory, and now we're really going to be able to give you some information that you will be able to use to just to get the most out of your parenting journey via the health and the relationship side as well. So we discovered there were 5 steps. Healthy diet and water is really important, avoiding food additives and chemicals. So Nathan will cover that. Also the physical health and nutritional support, Nathan will also cover. Reducing toxic exposure and things like EMFs that Nathan will also cover. Nathan's also going to cover this evening self-esteem, self-worth and emotions. And then I will come back with step 5, which is the positive parenting and relationships. So that just shows you there the progression of the 2 brothers, 1994, 2009, and then 10 years later in 2019. I love those photos. So I'm going to introduce to you now Nathan Davis. He's a qualified herbalist, nutritionist and naturopath. He's very, very passionate about health and wellness, and he's very well educated. He's the type of practitioner who really researches the research. He's not happy just having somebody else tell him something is. He's got to really research it to understand it for himself. And I know that over the years, I have sent many people to him, many of my parenting clients to him. And everybody loves the way that Nathan treats them and how detailed and committed he is to helping them on their journey. So Nathan, I'd like you to hop on, please, and you can take over for a little bit. That'll be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Just wanted to check that my camera is working. And you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. I'll turn my camera off and over to you.
Great. If you want to go back to sharing your screen.
Okay.
And great. So thank you very much for that awesome intro. And my career was really inspired by the change that my parents made in my brother. Prior to that, I would have gone off into computers and computer science, but because of I won't call it, the journey that we had through having my brother with all those health challenges and the change that I saw in him from what they did really inspired me to be able to do the same thing for other families. Mum and my stepfather Andrew did seminars with hundreds of people, and I would see the letters and face-to-face thank yous that they got saying, "You've changed our lives," and I wanted that as well. And I was very lucky to then start working with a holistic doctor and her team of other naturopaths and psychologists, kinesiologists, and chiropractors. If you can go back to the PowerPoint presentation, please. Now, these are the 4 areas that we use at the clinic for anyone's health. Now, when we go to the next slide, we're going to see the first step. And this is healthy diet. And it really first starts off with, is there anything that you're putting in your body that's doing it damage? Is there foods, if you can go back to the PowerPoint presentation, needs to stay on that, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I'm trying to connect back to Facebook.
Awesome. So whenever a patient comes in, no matter what condition they've got, we've got to start at their gut and make sure that there's nothing damaging it, because that's a part of our immune system. So we now call it microbiome. Well, now the medical area has caught up and they now acknowledge that the gut is really important. So we need to make sure that whatever food goes in our mouth, the immune system can recognize. So we find, especially with children, because there's such a strong gut and brain connection, whenever the gut is unhappy, the brain is unhappy, and their minds can't really just focus. So if someone is irritable, angry, aggressive, can't learn properly, there's a very good chance their gut has become disrupted. Now, the other thing that you can put in your mouth is water. And again, between food and water and oxygen, these are the 3 things essential to life. Now, healthy water is something that we didn't really focus on at uni. And in the first, 8 years of practicing, I was just telling patients to drink water in general, but wasn't really focusing on what that water was. These are some of the chemicals found in common tap water that is going into our bodies. And I just looked up a few different studies, and they're now seeing that even in pregnant women, when they're taking samples from the umbilical cord, up to 65 samples were taken, 80% of chemicals were detected. So that's being passed on to the unborn baby. So children these days are already being born toxic, and then they're exposed to even more toxins. Now, they're all different kinds of chemicals found in the body, but the studies are showing that, in America, especially 99% of them have had all of these chemicals detected. And so we really need to stop putting toxins in our body, and that step is water. So on the next slide, I'm going to be showing you what to do about that. So there's maybe for most of us, alkaline water is very cleverly marketed to us as being the healthy water to drink. And I thought that too, even, with my 5 years at uni, all that experience, I thought alkaline water was good because we're told our body is supposed to be balanced correctly and never acidic. We want it to be more neutral to alkaline. Well, when we are putting substances in our body, whether it be food or acidic water, especially things like, soft drinks, that's using up all of our resources to buffer us back to a healthy pH. Now, if you can imagine a child, we want these resources for their brain development, for their growth. We don't want them wasted buffering something as simple as what water they're drinking. And just a little bit of soft drink here and there, really you should have none at all, because it's an accumulation effect. So when we're looking at alkaline, the way they do that is up to 40% of what you're buying off the shelf and paying a lot of money for alkaline water is just filtered tap water that they have then put synthetic bicarbonates into, artificially increase the pH so they can put it on the label and tell us that we need to be drinking this expensive alkaline water. We totally do not need to be paying that, because what you want, if you were to live in a mountain area like the one behind me, and you had a natural stream coming down through the mountains, through all the mineral rocks, was getting hit by lightning, it would be negatively charged and full of minerals. And that's what you'd be wanting to put into your body. So you notice this or the picture, there's two pictures, and then down the bottom we've got alkaline, not alkaline. So when a substance is being hit by electricity, whether it's a lightning strike or you're infusing it with electrons, it develops an ability to protect your body. These electrons stop any free radicals doing damage to our cells. And this picture you're seeing is a machine that can detect, does a substance have these electrons, or is there an absence of them? And the higher the positive reading, the ORP, means that it's going to be stealing the electrons from our own cells. And we want to have protection. So there's certain waters that we can create that have a negative rating. And that means it's full of antioxidants and these electrons. Now, when we're drinking bottled water, not only is it most likely acidic, and if it was alkaline, it's still going to have that positive reading, meaning it's going to be stealing all of your own cells' electrons and damaging them. The plastic itself is full of microplastics, BPA, BPS, PVC, and phthalates, and these have all been proven to be hormone disruptors and other serious health conditions. Not mentioning the fact that we're contributing towards a really bad environmental concern, like 500 billion plastic bottles used per year. And again, this is our children we're talking about. What sort of environment are they going to be grown up in? Now the next page. On here, you're going to see what else apart from water you need to be looking out for. So there's some really handy little code breakers. It's like the size of a credit card, and it folds out and helps you identify all of the hidden food additives, colors, and flavors. Because marketing catches on, and as soon as we're aware of a term to look out for, they just use a different number or a different chemical name. And these really, when you're accumulating them in the food and your child's eating them and you're wondering why they're hyperactive, they're irritable, they're not listening, they go from peaceful and calm to all of a sudden uncontrollable, it's not just the food, but that's one huge part of it. And so if you can all of a sudden look at, now I've identified that food's not good for them because their immune system doesn't recognize it, as if it's a food intolerance, and it's full of different flavors and additives. Here's an example. It's really hard to see. Actually, what we'll do, we'll put it up on the Facebook page so you can get a copy of it. You can download it. And that way you can take that with you shopping and make sure nothing's in the food, because this is, think of it like an accumulation. As soon as you start implementing all these different steps, then you're going to see a massive change. You may have tried one or two of these steps previously and thought, well, I did that, it didn't work. Wait for the synergistic magic. When we put them all together, that's when you're going to have a greater. On the next screen, we're going to talk about some of the internal processes in the body. And that is referred a few different names: cryptopyrrole, pyrrole disorder, polyuria, and it's a natural process that we all have. And so when our body is making hemoglobin to help send around the body, the byproduct is pyrrole. And we all do that. But some people genetically are very messy at this process. And when we're making hemoglobin, we're making a lot of this pyrrole waste. And because it's a neurotoxic, the body excretes it. But unfortunately for some people, they make far too much of it and the body can't keep up. And it's losing, every time it's excreting the cryptopyrroles, a lot of zinc and B6 and manganese and omega-6s. And these are all nutrients needed for our brain to make our neurotransmitters. And if we don't have enough of these building blocks, then in times of stress, we don't have enough neurotransmitters to keep us calm, keep us collected and in control. And so this is something that can be tested through a urine test to see, are we one of those people that need more of these very specific nutrients because we have a inability to manage this efficiently. On the next page, you're going to see another area called methylation. So if pyrrole was the supply of nutrients, think of this one as the programming of the brain. So when the brain is programmed to know what to do, in terms of stress, it's like, I know what to make to calm us down. Let's make some GABA. I know what to do to keep us motivated. Let's make some dopamine. I know what to do to make us feel happy. Let's make some serotonin. When you don't methylate properly, the brain doesn't know what to do. It gets confused. It overreacts. It's imagine being sat at a traffic light that's both red. You're going to get very irritated and angry at everyone around you. Imagine if the traffic lights are both green. Everyone's going to be manic and chaotic around you, and there's going to be accidents everywhere. So this is the programming. And again, it links back to genetics. So put simply, methylation is a big area to talk about. And this test, unfortunately, is a blood test. And that tells us, as of right now, how well are you methylating? Are you over-methylating or are you under-methylating? There is a swab for the mouth that shows the genetic potential for you to have a methylation problem. So if there's an issue surrounding getting a blood test, then you can at least see if you have the gene that may cause this dysfunction and then treat accordingly. We can look at the symptoms and say, well, there's a good chance there is a methylation problem. They have the gene dysfunction. Let's go ahead and treat it as if it was. Because again, we are just putting vitamins and minerals back in the body specific to help that pathway work. So to give you an idea of how that can dysfunction, when you're eating all your green leafy vegetables, we're getting a lot of folate from them. And then our body converts that to the active form, the folinic acid and then 5-tetrahydrofolinic acid. Now, when you don't methylate properly, it can be due to one gene mutation, the MTHFR, means you can eat all the green leafy vegetables, but you're not really converting very well. And so simply being able to swap to an activated folic acid, all of a sudden your brain has one of the ingredients that needs to turn the cogs in this methylation pathway. And in about 2 to 6 months' time, you see drastic changes. On the next page, we're now going to look at some of the other toxins in the body that really affect us. Now, these are heavy metals, especially copper. So we do need a little bit of copper, but often when we have low zinc, remember that was one of the ones if you had pyrrole disorder, you're going to be low in. Zinc and copper have this relationship that they both need to be in balance. If you have low zinc, then all of a sudden, all the copper that's naturally found in foods starts to store up unnaturally, and then it starts to act as an antagonist and it doesn't let the zinc in properly. And the copper itself can act as a hormone dysregulator. And then you have an additional problem because not only is your zinc low, your copper gets too high, which makes it much harder to get the zinc in. Other heavy metals that we test for using various methods that can be hair testing or oligoscans, scans, which are much newer technology. We're now looking at is there any mercury, cadmium, arsenic, aluminium, bismuth, barium, and these are all heavy metals that are commonly found. And there's many studies that if you start to look at them, they did a study in jails and looked at what heavy metal all of the aggressive inmates had, and it turned out to be lead, an increased amount of lead. They then also looked at school children who were getting in trouble, and they found the same correlation. So what we put in our body, whether it's through food or drinking water from copper pipes, copper contamination in our soils, or in our environment really starts to affect us when it's compounded, especially with some of these other problems we've been chatting about. So next page. Speaking of environment, EMF, so electromagnetic frequencies. There's a great website, as you can see, the one on the left, that has links to all different studies in all different areas that you can then click on that and up pops a study or an article showing how that EMF affected that particular area. And you just need to look at some of the research to see that when our cells, which communicate via electrical signals, are influenced by other electrical signals, there starts to be dysfunction. More and more schools in Europe are switching over to the wired cable networks for their computers rather than using the Wi-Fi, because they're seeing the children in the schools have a much harder time concentrating and learning when they're being bathed in EMF. So I'm telling my patients, and this is something Dr. Price taught me, mobile phones go on flight mode when you're going to bed. Any electronic device within 1.5 meters should be turned off. And ideally the Wi-Fi router, it should also be turned off at night. You can either get a timer that you can say at 9 p.m. turn off and turn back on at 7 a.m. Or you can even log into some of the routers and set it up automatically. So it just turns the wireless off, but anything plugged in with a cord can still work. So ideally your house should be using the wires rather than wireless. It's just one more thing that we can reduce from our environment that's potentially causing a lot of harm to us and our children. And then the next page. We are now seeing where else we are having things come into our body and damaging us, like pesticides, herbicides, and household chemicals. And so here's some of the studies looking at what pesticides are doing to children. So you can go back and take a screenshot of this and go look up the studies and read more about them. But it's an 11% increase in ADHD had an association with pesticides. Now, on the next screen, we're going to see how we can remove some of these pesticides. You can either grow your own vegetables. There's certain companies that do spray-free vegetables that you can buy them all from. But you still want to be able to clean any potential viruses and bacteria that have made their way onto the vegetables, plus any other sprays that have been used that may not be a pesticide but may not yet have been proven to be safe. So when it comes to pesticides, there's something called strong alkalized electrolyzed water, and essentially it's a water that can be purchased or you can make it yourself, that you soak your veggies in, and because it can emulsify and break down oil, when pesticides are sprayed on all the veggies and fruits, it's in an oil base so it doesn't rinse off in the rain. When you're rinsing it underwater, a very small percentage of it is coming out. When you're putting it in vinegar and bicarb, that increases it, but still not very much. So this has been shown to up to 86% removal. We do this every time we go and buy veggies, and we pop them in a big, I guess you'd call it a laundry basket container. The plastic one, and you'd be amazed to see what's coming off our veggies. On the right hand side, you can see a little picture of tomatoes. So this was just like after 15 minutes of tomatoes being held in, one was the electrolytes or juice water on the left, and then on the right is just regular tap water. Now, nothing's come off the tomatoes on the right because all the chemicals are still in the tomatoes. However, on the left-hand side, it started to break down that outer fatty layer of the all the chemicals that have been sprayed on there, and some color molecules too. But again, 86% have been removed, depending on the pesticide used. The other thing that we do is rinse all of the veggies in a strong acidic electrolyzed water. So this time it's the opposite end of the scale. And this is able to sanitize all of the bugs and parasites on our veggies, and it's still safe to consume. So we're not using any harmful chemicals. We're using something that is naturally found in the body that helps us fight off bacteria that they've now been able to develop through using water that changes it into this strong electrolyzed acid water that can then sanitize. And so effectively what we're doing is we're making our food safe to eat, we're replacing all the household chemicals, and that's making a huge impact on how much stress is on our children's bodies, and ourselves as well. Next page. The last step is what we're going to be talking about today. Is a huge area, and really it probably took me at least 5 years into my career to really believe that emotions can affect physical ailments. So imagine the trauma that children can experience. They're like a sponge between the first 8 years. Anyone around them, whether it's a family member, a relation, a friend at school, a bully at school, anyone is able to influence them about their belief system. So a really good Dr. Bruce Lipton, developed Psych-K. Now you can go on YouTube and watch and listen to Dr. Bruce Lipton talk about the influence of emotions on our health. But effectively, we developed this belief system about who we are, our self-belief, our self-worth, our self-love. Now, if that is not a very good quality belief system because of those influences within the first 8 years, then as you go through adolescence and teenager and early adult, whenever we experience a trauma in life, we go back and rely upon those belief systems. And if they're not very strong, our brain doesn't know how to cope. And all of a sudden that trauma becomes a trapped emotion and it stays with us. And we end up making and repeating the same mistakes because that's what we're programmed to do. Now you can do something about this. So another good doctor to listen to, Dr. Bradley Nelson, he has a book called The Emotional Code. And he talks about how these trapped emotions all throughout life, even as an adult, whenever something happens to you, your brain remembers all the way back to childhood when that initially first happened, and then compounds every time in your life that something similar happened. So whenever it happens again to you, it's not just that little small thing that occurred. Your brain is amplifying it because it's the 10th, the 20th time it's happened, and it's not forgetting all those other times, it's compounding them. And this is really what can affect children. You may not know why they're being triggered, but it can be related to their belief systems and trapped emotions. So again, I could speak for an hour just on that subject, but I wanted to bring it to your attention, so at least now you've got some resources that you can go off and look at. So I believe those 4 steps, if you implement some of them, are going to be a dramatic change to you and your family. I am here if you'd like help with any of those steps. You can just reach us after this is finished to get in contact, and that, I can't wait to help. I can't wait to help you further.
Thank you so much, Nathan. Pop in the chat box, everybody, if you enjoyed listening to Nathan share his wisdom. And I know that he could speak on these topics for ages. So, we're just doing an overview tonight because we can only fit so much into this time frame. So thank you, Nathan. That was wonderful. And I enjoy listening to you each time, and I continue to learn from you. So that was awesome. Thank you so much. Thanks, Angelina, for your comments. Thank you. Thanks, Benny. All righty. So let's get on to now. So we talked about the 5 steps. So we've covered 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Nathan's covered all that. And normally, we would take, a good hour plus to cover those. So we've reduced that just to be able to fit in the next part, which is the positive parenting and relationships. So this is something that I'm very, very passionate about. Now, in the last 20 years, I have educated hundreds and thousands of people through live seminars that my husband and I used to do, traveling around the country, online webinars. I've done many of these, many with Nathan. I've been on our family have been on television several times. We've been on Today Tonight a couple of times. I've been featured in many magazines and newspapers. I've been interviewed. I've had hundreds of radio interviews, and as a matter of fact, at one stage I was a regular each week on Brisbane radio as a parenting specialist, and I had a 5-minute spot every week. And if you understand radio, that's actually a really long time to have a spot, which was awesome. So I have had a bit of an absence though. So in the last 6 years, other than kind of organically and incidentally, I haven't really done much officially with this passion of mine, but I do still talk to a lot of people about this. But I was encouraged by quite a few people to start sharing this information again, because it is something that I'm passionate about, and I do know that I can really help people, particularly when partnering with Nathan when he is dealing with the health side of things as well. So the following information that I'm going to share with you actually comes from this book, Parenting and the Law of Attraction, and a parenting course that I've actually put together. It's a 14-module workshop, and I used to do this as a weekend workshop. And my friend Katrina has actually helped me to put this all together digitally for you so that you can access it online. So what is the law of attraction and how does it apply to parenting? Who has heard of the law of attraction? I'm sure many of us have heard The Secret or Abraham Hicks. I mean, it's a very, like, most people know about it now, but you might be thinking, well, how does it apply to parenting? So the law of attraction actually states that I attract to myself whatever I give my focus, attention, or thoughts to, whether wanted or unwanted. So what you think or what you believe is what you will see reflected in your life. And I'm sure you've all heard this before. What we give most thought to is what we get back, right? So nowhere is the power of suggestion stronger than with children. And of course, the younger they are, the stronger that power of suggestion is. Now, using positive parenting tips, excuse me for a second, and realistic law of attraction techniques and healthy positive thinking can really help you to raise happy and healthy children. But the key when relating to parenting is to only focus on the things you want. And if I can just give you one tip tonight, this is probably one of the tips that I will give you. Focus on the things you want for and from your children. This is much, much more productive and positive than focusing on the things you don't want. And let's face it, guys, and mums and dads, grandmas, grandpas, how often do we focus on the things that we don't want in our parents? We energize when the children are not doing the right thing, right? And that's when we give them all of our energy as opposed to when they are doing the right thing. So it does take a little bit of work to just switch that around a little bit, but I've got to tell you, it is so, so worth it. So if you think about your parenting, and if we were being honest, I'm sure we could all put our hands up for this one. So we tend to focus our attention on the things about our children, and it depends on their age, of course, you know, such as their messy room, dirty clothes on the floor, not concentrating on schoolwork, being disrespectful, etc. And what we do is when we put our focus on those things, we move the focus and attention to the things we do not want. So we actually end up getting more of the same behaviors because this is where the attention was placed. So this is exactly how the law of attraction works. And it actually works just as well in parenting as it does in relationships, as it does in health, as it does in business. But it's so important to get this, parents, with your parenting. Focus on what it is you want. And what I suggest you do is continue to ask yourselves the question, what is it I really want? Because what happens is the kids get really frustrated, and so do we, when we focus on the things that we don't want, right? So what we need to really pay attention to is the language that we are using. And this is a huge passion for me. So anybody that knows me knows that I'm really passionate about the words that we use and keeping things nice and positive. Now, most parents will acknowledge that some of the first words they stressed to their children were no, don't, not. Now, although it mostly comes from love and the desire to protect our children, without realizing or intending it, this can really have a very negative effect on children, especially if it's used a lot. And when we think about our thoughts and the language we use, how often do we use these words with our children? If you were to think about your last 24 to 48 hours of conversations with your children, have you used the words don't, not, and no more than once or twice? Most of us would probably say yes. So when we use the words no, not, and don't, what we're doing is we're actually focusing on what we don't want instead of what we do want. Now, I know this is going to take a little bit to get your head around, but this immediately changes the focus of our attention from a positive thing to a negative thing. So rather than saying no, not, or don't, all we need to do is to redirect our children by telling them what we want them to do. Pretty simple, right? So we need to use phrases like, I need you to, I want you to, okay? So let's look at some examples of using no, not, and don't. I'm sure we've all said this one. Don't make a mess. Do not hit your sister, brother, whatever. No, you cannot have another biscuit. Don't speak to me rudely. Do not be home late. Don't talk with your mouth full. No computer for you until your homework is done. No dessert if you don't eat your dinner. Who's used some of those phrases before? So what do we really want when we're using these phrases? Think about what is it that we really are wanting. What we're really wanting is for them to keep clean and tidy, to be kind to their sister or their brother, to eat something healthier than a biscuit, to speak respectfully or kindly, to be home on time, to wait until food is eaten before you speak, finish your homework before using your computer, eat your dinner, then you can have dessert. Can you just see by just tweaking that, how that really changes the way we're communicating? So rather than saying you can't have dessert until you eat your dinner, all you need to switch that to is when you've eaten your dinner, you can have dessert. Really simple thing. You can't use your computer until you've done your homework. Just switch it. When you finished your homework, you can use your computer. Very subtle, but very, very powerful. So why not tell them what we want in the first place? Why confuse them with telling them what we don't want? So there is an exception to the no rule. Now, of course, if you avoid using the word no all day long, then what you'll find is that in some sort of emergency or a dangerous situation, it will be way more impacting. If a young child, for example, goes to run out on a busy road and you yell out, no, it's going to be heard more than if you use no often and the children are just like, oh, mum's just saying no again. They're going to block it out and ignore you. So remember, if you bombard your children with no too many times a day, then when you really need to use it, the child may not listen. So keep it for when you really need to use it, right? And think about it. How many times do you currently use the word no every day? Maybe you need to carry a little notebook around with you and take note. So let's eliminate the word don't. Now, using the word don't puts our attention on the opposite of what we want. When broken down, the word don't means not doing. So some examples could be, don't forget to pick up your toys. So this actually puts the focus on not doing what you are asking them to do. So when you turn it around and rephrase it by saying, when you put your toys away, we can, whatever it is, read a story, go out, watch TV, whatever it is, you've said the same thing in a positive way, and that puts the focus on what you want them to do. And it also rewards them with their most desired want, your attention. Did you know that that's what your children want more than anything? They want your attention, and basically they're going to get it any way they can. So let's give it to them in a positive way. Now, when, for example, you say, don't run, what they hear is run. You want them to slow down or walk, but they just hear run. When you say don't argue, what they hear is argue. And what you want them to do is use kind words, but they focus on argue. When you say don't drop or spill that, and how often do we say that or how often do we hear that? They hear drop or spill. And how many times have you said, don't drop that or don't spill that or don't break that, and it happens, right? What you want for them is to be careful. So remember, the key is to continue to focus on what it is you want. So be careful when you're drinking that, instead of don't drop it or spill it. Okay? Please walk inside instead of don't run. Please speak nicely to your brother instead of don't argue. Can you see the difference? So now if I say to you, don't think of a pink elephant. Now, don't you think of a pink elephant? What do you think of? Don't think of a pink elephant. Of course, you're going to think of a pink elephant. So let's eliminate the word not. An example of this would be when somebody is intending to improve a certain area of their life. So for instance, if you're challenged with being on time and you tell yourself repeatedly, I will not be late, I will not be late, what you're really putting the focus on is being late. The positive would be, of course, to say, I will be on time. It might also be the case if you word your affirmations in this way. I will not yell at the kids. So what you want, however, is to speak to the children in a calm voice. So remember, what is it you want? What about when you say, I'm not angry with you, but we hear and visualize angry, right? So what is it we want to actually say to them? So keep your attention and focus on what you really want. So the law of attraction for kids is easy. And as you now know, all it takes is a few changes in language to get you started. The kids will feel better and so will you. So it's quite easy to train yourself and your children to switch the negative thoughts and words into positive ones. And you can even make it into a game. So in my 2-day workshop, I have lots of activities, and this is one of the favorites called the Switch It game. So I've taught this to parents, I've taught it to teachers in schools, and it's had quite a profound effect. I know that one teacher, a school that I did some seminars in, a teacher used it in her classroom in high school, and she said the difference it made in the way the children got along was absolutely amazing. So basically, if you're going to explain this to your family, gather everybody around, whoever lives with you or whoever you interact with. If you spend a lot of time with cousins and grandparents, for example, share this with everybody. So explain that the name of the game is Switch It, and share with them that the above example so they understand how it works. So share with them just the things that I've shared with you. So replacing no, not, and don't, for example. Explain that every time someone says or hears the words don't, not, or no, and if it's a younger child, rather than giving them too many words, maybe just choose one, maybe just choose no, or just choose not, or whichever one you like. So if somebody uses one of these words, if they're older kids, they can probably cope with the 3 words in a sentence or a communication. They have to stop and switch it. So just like in those examples. So basically, if somebody said, don't muck around or don't be silly, you say switch it, and then you have to actually say what is it you really want. You have to actually say to the person what is it you really want. So this gets everybody really thinking about how they communicate. You can even do this with kids as young as 3 and 4 and 5 years old. The kids will love it when when they know that you can't say no, mums and dads. So they're really going to get a lot of joy out of this. But it's up to you to think about what it is you really want when you say no. So you've got to think about how to say that in a positive way. So if there are any kids listening, hint, 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 when you catch mum or dad out with a switch it word, just say to them, right, mum or dad, so what is it you really want? And then you can tell them what it is you really want. You'll be surprised how much fun this is and how you will catch each other out. And even now, even though I know this so well, I still catch myself out and say to myself, switch it. Or sometimes we self-correct ourselves, or we do it with people around us as well. Okay, I love it with the word forget, for example. How often do we say to our partner or somebody, don't forget to take the bins out, don't forget the milk on the way home, don't forget to do your homework. And when they come home and they've forgotten it, you wonder why? Because you actually put in their head to forget it. What we should have just said is, can you please remember? Please remember to grab the milk on the way home. You've probably got a much better chance of getting it home. So the basis of the law of attraction is that you have to ask, believe, act, and then you will receive. So it's imperative that you understand these how you ask, what you believe, what actions you take, and how you receive. So these make a huge difference between success and failure, whether it's in parenting or basically any other area of your life. So all of this stuff that I'm teaching you now can just as easily apply to relationships with your partner. It can apply to business. It can apply to your health. It can apply to just about anything, really. So step one is ask. So asking requires that you have to have a very specific and clear goal or objective. So be specific. So if, for example, you want your children to behave, just saying, I want my children to behave is pretty broad, right? So you could tone it in a little bit and make it a little bit more precise. So if you are more specific with something like, I want my children to listen when spoken to, be cooperative and treat each other well. Now that's still quite a few things, but it's a lot more specific than just saying, I want my children to behave. So you're focusing on listening, cooperation, and treating each other well. So by being more specific, you actually help your conscious and subconscious mind, which in turn will attract to you the situation that will then allow you to succeed. And of course, you have to believe in what you're asking for. So asking and focusing, or what I call feeling, on your goals. So really not just saying them or writing them or asking, but you've got to really feel like it's something you really want. As often as you can will help you to begin to believe that your goals are possible and that you can achieve them. And then you'll start to believe, which is the next step. So a part of believing is truly feeling the goal. So instead of just saying or writing, I want my children to listen when spoken to be cooperative and treat each other well, believe that is how they are. Feel the good feeling thoughts you get when you actually see them behaving in this way. Play it out in your mind's eye and believe that is how they are behaving right now. Close your eyes and see them behaving that way that you want them to. Believe and feel the way that it feels to hear them speaking in the way that you want them to speak, etc. So it will be challenging for the law of attraction to conspire to make this happen if you don't truly believe it, right? So you may be subconsciously thinking, that'll never happen. They fight all the time and they never listen to me. So if you're thinking that while you're saying something else, it's not going to work. You must be really clear and truly believe your goal. So the more you focus on your belief, the more often you have it around you, the more the universe will conspire to make it happen. Now, you have to take action, right? We can't just hope it's going to happen. We do have to take some action. So if you want things to change, things have to change, right? So the same applies with your parenting goals as it does for any other goal: financial, health, fitness, weight management, etc. You do have to ask and believe, but there are also actions you have to take to help make it happen. You could believe that you want to release some kilos. You can feel it and imagine how you're going to feel and look releasing that weight. But if you don't do something about it, if you don't exercise and eat well, it ain't going to happen, right? So just like when we discussed with removing the 3 words no, don't, and not, you're going to have to take some action as well with this and implement things that are going to create the beliefs that are going to attract the outcomes you desire. And then, of course, the great part of this is the receiving. So by asking and believing that your children will behave better, and then by acting accordingly, you will be sending out more positive vibes, and that's really important, using more positive language and be more encouraging and supportive. And how do you think the children are going to feel when all of that happens? Are they going to feel crap or are they going to feel good? Of course they're going to feel good. Many different things are going to start to happen. Your children will start to notice your changed tone, your demeanor, your improved attitude, that your tolerance level has changed, and so on. And even without consciously deciding to behave better or differently, children will actually start to respond to your change in energy. They too will become calmer, more cooperative, and more open to discussions and resolving conflicts. I challenge you to do this and not have it work. So in a sense, with your commitment to asking and believing and then taking the appropriate action, the whole family is going to receive beautifully. And this is how the law of attraction actually works. What you focus on is what you get more of. Now, it might sound simplistic or it might sound unachievable, but if you work on it, I can guarantee with you, if you continue to focus on the positive outcome that you want, you will start to eliminate the feelings of negativity, doubt, fear, and worry, and focusing on what could go wrong. Just like when you focus on the positive outcome you want, filling your mind with negative thoughts will also attract more of what you don't want. So you've got to really learn how to switch that around. So for example, if you keep thinking and focusing on the children's negative behavior and say or think, why do you keep doing this? Why can't you do that? When will you listen to me? And so on, then that's what you will get more of. Guaranteed, right? So Caleb's story, as you heard earlier, was a really interesting one. Now, when I actually wrote this book in 2009, Caleb was not quite 16 when I wrote this. But just after he turned 16, we actually went out and did some book launches. And Caleb actually agreed to come along. He actually gave me permission to write this book because it's kind of a real tell-all story, and there's a lot of really personal stuff in this, right? So I had to get Caleb's permission to write this. And even today, he's not always comfortable with some of the stuff that I share. I recently read this whole book on Facebook, on live, over about 20 days. So if you want to hear this story, just go to the Parenting Strategist Facebook page and you'll be able to listen to the whole story. But one of the most beautiful things that happened was when we were doing one of the book launches, because we did a few, I told our story. Caleb, somebody actually asked Caleb a question. And when they actually asked that question, my ears pricked up. And I'm going to paraphrase it here. So what they said was that, what was it like when you saw the effort that your mum and dad were making to be better parents? Sorry, I shouldn't be reading. I should just say it off the top of my head. They actually said, what was it that made you turn around, that changed things for you from where you were just 10, 11 months ago, 12 months ago to where you are today? And when I heard that, I so wanted to hear the answer, right? And I saw his mind tick over for a few seconds, and he thought about it, and he actually simply said, when I saw the effort that my mum and dad were making to be the best parents they could be, I just wanted to be the best son I could be. And when I heard that, I'm like, wow, this really does work. That sentence that he said is probably the most amazing thing that I've ever heard, because it means that all of the effort that we made over all of that time really did make a difference. So positive energy attracts more positive. So what was actually happening with this scenario, and remember that Caleb wasn't just the average challenging child. He was pretty challenging indeed. Like, he was getting into some stuff that, most parents luckily don't have to deal with, right? But Caleb was picking up on our energy and responding to the new way that we were interacting with him, which was so beautiful to see. And everything in this world is made up of energy, including us, right? So if you have positive energy, you'll attract positive experiences and people into your life. And guess what happens when you have negative energy, right? You know the answer. You'll attract negative people and negative situations to your life. So most of the time, we don't even think we know that we have negative energy. We just know that everything goes wrong, right? So if you find that you're getting exactly what you don't want, or if you find that you're not getting what you do want, right, then there's a very good chance that you're simply sending out the wrong energy. Interesting, right? So just like a magnet, like attracts like. So at the end of the day, you'll attract what matches your energy. And this is so important with parenting. Negative energy attracts negative situations. Positive energy attracts positive situations. It sounds simplistic, and yes, it is. So when you think about it, when your mind is filled with positive thoughts, you send out positive energy. Your subconscious becomes more aware of positive situations and hence brings more positive outcomes into your life. So just as simplistic as when your mind is filled with negative thoughts. And once again, this can apply to anything. You are likely to be sending out the wrong energy. Your subconscious is then more aware of the negative and unpleasant situations. So if you're not getting what you want in your parenting, change your energy and you'll likely start getting what you want. So if you constantly think the worst, if you find that you're negative, if you don't believe that you can ever achieve anything, if you constantly complain, if you always see the worst in situations, if you regularly put others down, what will you attract? I think you know the answer, right? You've got it. You will develop negative energy, and in the end, you'll only attract more negative situations into your life. It actually makes a lot of sense. We could call this person the glass half empty thinker, right? So if you want to be a positive person and a positive role model as a parent, what can you do? You might be thinking right now that you might be leaning a little bit towards the glass half empty thinking, but you'd rather be leaning towards the glass half full. You may be contemplating right now why you're having challenges with your children or your family situation or your relationships or your health or your business or your finances. It applies to all of them. You have to turn your energy around, and I've had to switch my energy around in so many areas of my life. I'm constantly onto it, right? If something's not going right, switch my energy, switch my thinking, be grateful, all of those things. Change the way you see things and begin eliminating the negative thoughts and the negative beliefs. This will help change your energy so that you will begin attracting what you want. Trust me, it works. Start directing your subconscious mind to bring positive situations and people into your life now. Focus on positive relationships with your children, and that's obviously what this webinar is about tonight. Understand that things will work out, no matter how challenging they might be at the moment. Look for solutions instead of complaining. Be more understanding instead of getting angry, right? Try to look at things from a different perspective and embrace changes and look for opportunities instead of focusing on the challenges, and believe that the best will happen. Once again, that applies to everything. So as you continually change the way you think and see things, you'll begin to naturally attract more positive situations into your life. And this is a law of the universe. There's no ifs and buts about it. It is a law. So, do you want more? I've just really touched on, remember, what I've just covered is a part of a 2-day workshop that I used to do in person with rooms full of people, usually both parents there if possible. And we would go through this, and it would take 2 whole days to go through. So what I've done now is, because we're not getting together in person, and it does make it challenging even when we don't have the current situation happening, for everybody to be able to get it into one place at one time. So we've actually set up an online step-by-step 14-module workshop to go through what we've just covered tonight, with so much more. We've just touched the basics tonight. So based on my 2-day weekend workshop full of amazing content and interactive activities and how-tos, just like the Switch It game, with bonus PDF books and MP3 audios, with bonus one-on-ones with Naturopath Nathan, who you heard, and myself, parenting strategist. Now, we have a complete 14-module course, so you can read through that as I click through introduction, our story, you and your family. I go through the 4 parenting styles. This is really interesting: aggressive, passive, manipulative, and assertive. You might not be quite sure which one you are, or you could be a bit of a combination. We look at the law of attraction, so sort of what we've just covered now. We look at the conscious and the subconscious mind. We look more of the law of attraction. We look at the life design CDs. So these are some subliminal CDs. My husband Andrew is actually a sound engineer. We've been using these CDs since Caleb was 7 years old. The Young Minds Healthy Self-Image one was actually recorded by him in his voice when he was 7 years old, so almost 20 years ago. And we still sell them and we still use them. Module 8, ask, believe, act and receive, and then we've got another activity. What we think is what we get. So we'll go into a little bit more detail about what I've just covered. What do you want to attract? The importance of the parent's role. Assisting children with the law of attraction. We've got activities there, so you can see that's activity 8. So throughout there are different activities. And then of course module 13, questions are the answers, so 10 questions to answer, and then the revision and conclusion. So it's pretty comprehensive, and normally, as I said, we would take that over a whole 2-day weekend. So what we're doing is something really, really special for you tonight, something that we've never done before. Last time we did this in May last year, we actually had a really special offer, but tonight we're going to really top that offer big time. So what you'll get with this online parenting course, if it is of interest to you, is the 14-module online workshop. And as I said, that's normally a 2-day workshop. But the great thing about it is that all of the modules are done separately. They're recorded separately. So you can choose to just spend half an hour or 40 minutes on one module at a time, or you can smash it out in a day or a weekend if you wish to. You'll also get a PDF of the book, The Best Parent I Can Be, which is that one, and that's the one that the course is based on. You will also get the PDF of the children's book, which is The Best Me I Can Be, which is the parents and the children's one. You will also get a PDF of the book If You Want Kids to Cooperate, Just Ask, and that's actually out of print now, so that's the only way you can actually get that one. You will also get an MP3 of the Young Minds Healthy Self-Image CD, which is the one that you play for your children, and one for the parents as well. You will also receive a 30-minute one-on-one session with Nathan to go through all of the health things with you. And then when you've completed your course, so you can do that call with Nathan at any time you wish. You can do it prior to getting started, during it, whatever you would like. So that's up to you to organize and book in with Nathan. And also a 60-minute one-on-one session with me at the completion of the course, because I want you to have gone through the course first so that I can then answer any of your questions and help you along the way. So hopefully that all makes sense. Now that package, if you add all of that up, is $928. So when we did this seminar last in May, we did an introductory price of $477 for the complete course and bonuses. But because you're all at home at the moment, or not all at home, but a lot of people are at home or have more time at home, and you might be wanting to concentrate on your parenting, for those who take action in the next 7 days, so I'm going to give you 7 days from today, we have an amazing price of only $97. That's almost a 90% discount. So it's saving $831, which is crazy. So Nathan, if you could please copy and paste that code into the chat box, please, that would be great. So to actually receive this discount, you will need to go to theparentingstrategist.com.au/online-parenting-course, and you will need to use the special code webinar special. If you don't catch it at the moment, we'll make sure it's in the comments once we post this. You can actually go and order that course for only $97. You'll get all of the things that I went through on the prior page. You can work through it at your own pace, and you can get all of that value, including a consultation with Nathan and myself for $97, which is pretty incredible. For those of you who are not interested in the parenting course but might like to have a consultation with Nathan, he's also offering special Zoom consultations for people at a really good price as well, because a lot of his patients at the moment can't see him face to face. So if you'd like to inquire with Nathan about that, just let either Nathan or myself know, and we can let you know how you can do that. But that's basically it for us tonight. So thank you for listening in. I'm just really disappointed, but it's okay that we didn't end up streaming live to Facebook, but that's okay. I'm sure that people will be able to listen to the recording. So once again, some beautiful, happy family snaps there with my 2 amazing sons who mean the world to me. I'm so happy and grateful to have such an amazing family, and I'm so grateful to have been on this journey so that I can offer value to families now. So Nathan and I look forward to helping you further. And Nathan, would you like to close it out tonight? My voice is about to conk out anyway.
You've done an amazing job as normal, and if only everyone could see the impact that this was having on our family before we were able to implement the changes. And I know if it happened to us, it happens to many others. And if they could only implement some of it or as much of it as possible and have a complete different outcome, that is going to solve many adulthood challenges down the track. If I could go back in time and help all my patients when they were children, I think things would be a very different world right now. So please share this information with other friends and family. We're here to help. Get back in touch with us if you would like help in any of the areas that we spoke about. We look forward to helping you further.
Thank you so much, Nathan. And once again, Nathan, thank you so much for your valuable time this evening. Nathan, if I put it to him, let's do a webinar to help people to add value, it's always a yes. So whether it's about parenting or health or wellness or whatever it is, he's always willing to help because it is his absolute passion to help people in their health and wellness journey. So once again, thank you everybody who tuned in live on Zoom. Apologies once again for the Facebook Live not working, but we will get this recording to you on Facebook so that you can listen to it in your own good time. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Until next time, thank you for joining us once again. Bye for now.